The world got smaller. Another of those sayings that you don't maybe give too much thought to initially, seeing it as it is. But when you look at it from a different perspective, obviously it changes, although the information remains the same. The world just got smaller. I thought this was in relation to travel and communication, and the new ease we found in modern society of getting somewhere quicker, so it didn't seem too far away or distant. Talking and communicating instantly. Also changing how we view time and being able to interact with people. Seems like an obvious explanation to the mental adjustment to those things. The world is no longer so big you can't get somewhere. Well, now you can, so they say. But if I were to think on it from a different angle, along the lines of a flat earth, round earth debate, I start to see things that are useful for purpose of limiting one's thought process, closing off certain avenues of thought, or redirecting them towards what appears to be a plausible explanation. Because if we did think or know the world was bigger, and there was more land as speculated and mentioned in So Big They Don't Notice and A World Within a World, then would we be content to stay within our allocated area? Probably not. And that's where I thought of ways they might try to minimise people knowing, from asking questions, or keep them where they are, and to make sure certain stories and information get lost to time, or became myth or fiction. Zeppelin airships. These are not myth or fiction, and it's presumed they were taken out of circulation so commercial airlines could dominate the market and skies. Of course, the official story is the disaster, and it being a safety issue, and that could well be the case. But I wondered if perhaps those airships were, or could have been capable of travelling further than planes, with their restricted fuel levels, which may be like that for a reason. So the distance a pilot can travel is limited to where they like them to travel, if you know what I mean. Bermuda Triangle. This one has always been there in my lifetime. I couldn't get enough of the strange and mysterious growing up, unsolved mysteries and things like that being a favourite. But not to just blithely believe these wild claims and quite outrageous ideas, but to give them thought and see if they could be explained in a logical and practical way. To consider the normal and ordinary before you explore the bizarre and alternative view. So with this one, I thought the obvious, as others may have. Was it a magnetic anomaly? Is it a weather issue? Is it human interference? And yesterday I considered a different approach, while thinking of pilots and captains of ships, who might want to stray outside of the known and charted options. Because of course, a plane would have less option of being able to go that far, or land, or come back. But a ship could, and perhaps maybe that's why some of them aren't ever found, because they didn't come back. Whether that's because you can't, you get lost along the way, or you don't want to, is another set of thoughts. But wouldn't it be a really good way to explain what looks like mysterious disappearances? Not admit that people were trying to get out, get away, or find more, but instead to run with the idea that there is an unexplainable triangle that may or not be doing something which affects ships and planes. Like I said, that really could be it, and then they get dragged into the deep trenches and lost that way as the theory goes. Shipping lanes and flight paths. Following on from the Bermuda Triangle idea, and the thought that pilots and captains are perhaps psychologically amongst the most adventurous and curious when it comes to these things, I figured they would be the most likely to stray into what appears to be uncharted territory, or decide to step out of the restricted flight paths and shipping lanes to explore. That seems to be something that doesn't happen anymore. Apparently we have discovered it all, know it all, and have now shut it off from others saying there's nothing to see here. And like I said, that could well be the case. And we have been everywhere, seen everything, and now they just want to hold everyone in place in small areas within vast land masses. But it seems like there should be more, that there is so much more, and all the borders, rules, barriers, and separation is to keep people focused on where they are, and not thinking or looking over there, believing it's too far, there's no land, we can't get there. All the while the military ships and submarines go about their business, quite undisturbed and unnoticed by us, as we are herded into lanes and told where we can and can't go. If the world was bigger, and there was more of everything, I believe people would want to investigate, and know of that more. They would adventure, they would be curious and move around more, as apparently we have done in the past. because it makes you wonder how we discovered anything at all if we were like we are being forced to be today. But you can also see how that kind of person and thought process really wouldn't work in this ridiculous time we find ourselves in, where for some weird reason and for a while now, some humans have gone rather mental with wanting to control and dominate other humans, to the point of clinical obsession and being implemented in the most destructive way possible, just so the fragile ego of want and desire can be fed. It seems so completely heartless and demented, and is raging out of control itself. Maybe that's why perhaps some people find it easier to believe they are not human, and it's something else that restricts and controls us. But that is another conversation. For now it seems we are being led down a very sinister path to be locked in a very small room of someone else's choosing, and for someone else's purpose. Best we get on and see what we can do about that. It feels like the clock is ticking.